Good afternoon. Hi there. How are you? My name is Pat Campbell. I'm a radio talk show host from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome into Red Pill 101, episode 25, Vetting Women. Promises to be an epic episode here. We're hoping for 30,000 views. I'm joined by the
that like button.
hit it hard. I'm joined by the high priest of the Manosphere himself, the Godfather, yes. Rollo Tomasi, the rational male.
The Hierophant. Good. How are you? I'm really stoked, man. This is the last week before we go off to Orlando, man.
That's true. Excited about that as well. Yeah. In fact, we got some I guess housework or house cleaning we're going to do towards the end about that. Yeah, and also the 21 convention in the fall. All right, so we had the crying game before. That was a popular episode.
Yeah,
this is sort of the vetting game. How to properly vet women if you're interested in a long-term relationship. And I think the vetting process is going to be very different depending on what you want. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah. And I deliberately put that in there in the description, if you want an LTR. And I think that's the first. I mean, we kind of have to preface this whole thing by saying, look, if that's the direction that you want to go, and we should probably talk a little bit like, I'm of the opinion that at some point, at some state in a man's life, he's going to want to get together with just one woman and pair with that woman and start a family or whatever. I'm not saying that that's true for every guy, but I think that for most men, that's the way it works. Men and women have different sexual strategies. Women tend to look for quality rather than quantity, whereas men are the other way around. Given free reign of our sexual natures, men would be apt to have unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. Women are looking for the bigger and better deals. Hypergamy versus, it's actually really our strategy versus K's strategy. Our strategy being I hope I'm doing this right. Our strategy is sort of scattershot. It's breed more and then hope that the mass of your breeding efforts works out for the benefit of survival. Or there's the K side of things, which is investing in one or few offspring and raising them to maturity and hoping that they do better. It's kind of like rabbits versus predators, So I see that that a lot of people want to challenge me on that. They will say, well, human beings are always going to be K selected, right? Well, or they want to say that R and K selection are different depending on the society or whatever the environmental stresses are on that particular society or those particular people. Well, that is true. I will agree with that. But I would say as our individual natures between men and women tend to be more K selecting, men tend to be more R selecting. But not all guys can do that.
Explain what that means, because a lot of people haven't heard that terminology before.
I hope I'm not getting this backwards. Okay, men's sexual strategy tends to be given free reign is unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. Right. For women, it's hypergamy. Okay, it's I need somebody who is of higher quality than myself who can provide both survival benefits and reproductive benefits. And it's putting all of your eggs in one basket versus making a whole lot of eggs. Right, making a whole lot of babies. It's like there are certain mammals, like say rabbits. That's why we say they breed like rabbits, right? Because they're having a lot of children. That's an R selection reproductive strategy. Whereas a K selection is let's just have a couple of kids. Like for instance, my wife and I, we definitely be K selected. We only had one kid by design, and we put as much of our energies into that one child. So you can debate as to whether that is universal for human beings. You can debate as to whether that is only true depending on environmental stresses, or it's only true depending on like cultural, traditions and things like that. But given free reign, we're already seeing women do this. Like when we give women uncontested unilateral control of the reproduction process, like we have since the sexual revolution, what happens is you get unfettered hypergamy, which is where we're at right now. Well, if we were to do the same thing, if we were to do a similar thing on the male side of it, it's sexuality with all the checks and balances removed from from the reproductive process, because women select, men tend to, and this is the tendency, men tend to perform, women tend to select. Eggs are more expensive and sperm is cheap, right? So what happens is if you do the similar thing, if you say, okay, guys, guess what? You can have sex with any chick you want. That's when
Right.
you get something like pornography. That's why pornography it's ubiquitous, it's free, it's online. Any child who has a smartphone can look at hardcore pornography anytime that kid wants to view
Right.
that, which is a first time in history that we've had something like that. But that is evidence, or that is, I should say, that is a result of men's our selection strategy for reproduction. So what happens, and what we're gonna get into here is like, and this is my thing, is a cardinal rule of sexual strategies is that for one sex's sexual strategy to succeed, the other sex's sexual strategy must be either compromised or it has to be abandoned entirely. And what most guys do is abandon it entirely. They say, okay, baby, I just want to, I'm only a one woman man, right? And I want to have kids with just you. And I'm going to give up my, it's in with the wedding vows, right? I'm going to forsake all others, right? And you're the only one for me. So what the guy is doing is believes he's compromising, or he's abandoning what his natural innate sexual strategy would be if there were no checks and balances. If it were like, I mean, that's how you get like gay bathhouses, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's a free for all. Let's just go nuts, right? Well, what will men do when you remove those filters? When you remove hypergamy from their sexual selection process? Okay. Because hypergamy tends to be that filter. It's that buffer of men's sexual strategy, whereas before prior to the sexual revolution, women used to have buffers against hypergamy as well. And so we had this compromise between the two, but now we have decided that, through gynocentrism or through, ever since the sexual revolution, we have unfettered hypergamy. And anybody who's read my work knows what I mean when I'm talking about that. So you're looking at two different sexual strategies. And I think that is the most important aspect that we need to sort of focus on when we're talking about how to vet for a woman, because when guys are doing that, men need to understand that when they are vetting for a long-term relationship, or when they are deciding, hey, you know what, I'm 36 or 38 years old, and, I've had sex with X amount of women. I think it's time for me to settle down and start a family and try to find a really good woman. Most guys don't do that, of course, during their sexual market value peak. They usually do it prior to that, of course. Right. But when you are doing that, men need to understand that you are abandoning, or you are at least compromising, your own sexual strategy, your ability to maneuver. When you commit, it's on 48 laws of power, right? Commit to no one. When you commit, you lose maneuverability, you lose your options. So you're trading those options to satisfy a woman's sexual strategy, which is settle down, have babies, and live happily.
Let me jump in on that, because I think there's a distinction I want to bring up. In general, especially when they're at their peak sexual market value, they're early to mid 20s women. Okay, they do the selecting. I noticed, and we were talking off air, I followed a lot of your rules, not even knowing that I was following them. For example, don't get married until you're over the age of 30. I mean, that's your starting point. You actually go up to 35, and marrying somebody that's 5 to 7 years younger, in some cases even younger than you. But for me personally, I noticed around 27, 28, all of a sudden the tables flipped. And then I had, and not that I had problems before, but all of a sudden, I had my pick of the litter. And it's because, that wall, that imaginary, you got to be married by 25 or whatever it is now. If you're not married by 25, you're an old maid. That was kicking in. And a lot of the girls that were in that group, all of a sudden, they weren't maybe as picky as they had been in the past. Did you find that yourself?
Priorities change. Yes.
Yeah,
and that's actually, if you've read my second book, the entire second book is really dedicated to that dynamic, the epiphany phase, the timeline, how women can go from being in their teenage years. But remember, women mature physically and mentally faster than men do, but they reach a certain level. They only get to a certain level, whereas men can exceed them. That's a whole nother episode we should probably talk about at some point. But so when women are in their teens and when they're into their mid 20s, you're right. That's why I'll always peg women at 23 for their peak it's peak fertility window as well, but it's also it's their peak sexual market value window is right around there. And again, I will refer people back to the statistics in that book, Dataclysm, which shows that men between the ages of 15 and 70 all prefer women between the ages of 22 and 24 years old, and it does not change. For women, of course, it does change. So women tend to prefer men that are 5 to 7 years older than them, because hypergamy needs a sure thing. Remember, hypergamy is based on doubt. Is he the best that I can do? So when women are looking for that guy, that long-term guy, not the short-term breeding side of guy, that we're talking about the long-term, I want to settle down with this guy, I want to start a life with this guy. She's looking for a guy who is 5 to 7 years older than her, someone who has more sexual market value than her, preferably. And then a guy who is, remember, because hypergamy does not seek its own level. It's always looking for the bigger and the better deal. To move up. Okay, so she's always looking for that. But remember, there's lots and lots of ways that, lots of elements, aspects that make a man attractive. So it's not, we're not talking arousing. There's a difference between arousal and attraction. When I talk about attraction, I mean the beta buck side of hypergamy. It's the side where she needs to have assurances for survival. First of all, it'd be nice if she has reproductive benefits. It's nice if that guy is a hot guy, but primarily when a woman gets into her epiphany phase, when she gets between the ages of 29 and 31 years old, that's when it kicks into high gear. That's when she realizes, or hindbrain realizes, that she can no longer play the game that she used to play back when she was 23 years old at her sexual market value peak. So what happens is her subconscious and her conscious have this discussion, or have this internal conversation, and says, we need to find a guy who is a good long-term prospect, because we can't be as sexually selective as we have been in the past, and when we were younger, because that's just the nature of the game. Men are interested in youth and fertility, and that is it. So when women get to that point, they are looking for, ideally, they're looking for a guy who's fun. It's like the bullet point checklist. It's all these prerequisites that a man needs to have. He's got to be funny. He's got to have a good job. He's got to love his mother. He's got to like puppy dogs. He's got to want children. He's got to, go to church on Sunday. He's got to, all of those things that, he's got to be intelligent. He's got to have a college degree, and blah, 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 blah. Like all of the things that you see on pretty much every woman's dating profile. Those are the things she's hoping to get. But you'll notice that what happens is, when a woman gets to that point, she prioritizes those needs differently than when she was, say, 20, 23 years old. When she's 20 or 23, she's looking for sexual acts. She's looking for reproductive benefits more than anything. She wants the hot guy. She wants to have sex with the hot fireman in the fireman calendar. She wants to have sex with the guy who is the fun dude that she met in spring break in Cancun in a foam cannon party. Okay. That's 22, 23, 24 years old. When she gets to be 27, 26, 27, then she starts to think, man, I need to start looking around. When she gets to be 29 to 31, that's what I call the epiphany phase. And she has this epiphany that I don't want those nasty old bad boys anymore. I want to settle down with it. Now, where are all the nice guys? And so that's where that happens. And so, yes, what you're talking about, though, is women are way more sexually selective when they are 23, 24, 25, right there. They have the choice. They're the ones who can select who that they want to be with. Whereas when they get older and their sexual market value begins to decay, that's when their priorities switch, but it's also where they become the most necessitous. And when people call me to the carpet about men's sexual market value peak being like 35, 36, 37 years old, somewhere in there. You have to understand that the reason that is a man's peak is because that is the peak time for that man, if he's made the most of his potential to be as attractive and as arousing for that woman, for a woman who is also in her most necessitous time of her life. So it's also the necessity of that woman that contributes to that man's sexual market value. Because guys will always tell me, well, I don't see a lot of 23-year-old girls going out with a lot of 36-year-old guys. Yeah, of course not, because we're looking for different things. What constitutes sexual market value for a woman is not the same things that constitute sexual market value for a man. So I know we're kind of getting off on a tangent here, but like, but what you're talking about is when that guy gets to be 26, 27, that's when she's hoping that guy is going to be ignorant of the game. That's when that guy is hoping that that's when that woman is hoping that the men that she wants to get with in the long term are still stupid. Like they're still stupid enough to believe in the idealism that they had when they were younger, because they really wanted to get with that girl who was 23, and now she's 28, 29, and she's not as fun and frolicky and as good looking as some of the next generation or the next crop of girls that are coming in. And what she's hoping is that he won't realize that when he's 30, 31, 38, whatever in between there, that he will understand that he actually has sexual selectivity. So women, as far as blue pill conditioning is concerned, women want stupid guys. They want guys to be ignorant of the game when they're 30 years old, and women need them the most, and they have the most potential, and they want to grab them right before they actually hit that sexual mark. Yeah, before you wake up. Because when I talk about midlife crises for men, I'm not talking about it's not actually a midlife crisis. It's that man realizing that he had all this potential, and had he waited a little bit longer, he would have been able to find a girl who was younger, hotter, and tighter. But because he was 30 years old and he didn't believe that, and he still believed in his blue pill idealism, that means that he paired off with a chick who would not have been his choice had he been aware of that, and had he been older and in his sexual market value peak.
I grew up with a number of Italian friends, and I can tell you, having interacted with their families, that if a guy got to be about 30 and he wasn't married, like the women in the community, it was like panic mode. We got Anthony's got to get married. He's 30 years old. He still doesn't have a wife. Like there's something defectively wrong with you, and they got to push you towards that.
Right, because they think you're gay, or they think that, or a lot of the guys that I talk to for the red pill and religion, or the pastors I'm talking to, they're one of their shaming techniques is that if a guy is 30 or 31 or 32, he hasn't paired off yet, which is becoming more and more common right now. If he hasn't paired off yet, if he hasn't grown up, he is extending. They say he's extending his adolescence, or he's extending
perpetual adolescence.
He's perpetual. He's a kidult, right? He's one of these Peter Pan man. So you just grow up and marry those girls. It doesn't matter if they're single mothers or whatever they've done. If you were a real man, and here's the real man merit badge. If you were a real man, you would go and you would man up, and you would marry these single mommies in the church, because we got a whole lot of them right now.
let me get into the discernment thing, because we're getting off target here. So discernment. Okay, I've gotten a number, and we're going to eventually do an Ask Rolo segment on my local program that we air every Friday in Tulsa.
That'll be
good. But there's a recurring theme that I hear from guys, and this plays right into what you're talking about. Why you need to wait till 30 or older, because you haven't had enough life experience when you're 20, 21, 25 to understand this and how it works. But guys, the difference between won't and won't and can't. Okay, and I give you an extreme example. Okay, so we've got the Patriarch convention coming up next week in Orlando, right? Well, I won't go because I'm having, I don't know, my something taken out. Okay, my gallbladder removed. That's a hard won't. I can't, or I should say, I got it backwards. It should have been a can't. That's a hard can't. I can't do it. All right. There's a difference between can't and won't. And won't means, maybe something better came up. I don't know. I got a really good offer or something to go somewhere else. And guys, will try to rationalize this crap in their head, not realizing she's sending you a message. You're not that guy that she's looking for. She's keeping you there. She's holding you, but all the time she's looking for something better. So pick up on that.
Okay. So you're going to laugh at this, because this is actually an episode of Friends. Okay. What I mean by that is, like, I don't know if you remember that episode of Friends, but there was that episode where I think it's Ross and Rachel who split up, and Rachel says to Ross, "You're such a great guy. You're such a great dude, but I'm not at a point. I'm not at a place in my life where I want to be with you. Right? You're such a great guy. Any girl would be happy to be with you. You're going to make a great husband for a girl someday. But that girl's just not me. But I'll tell you what, if we get to be 30 years old and you're still single, then we'll get married. That'll be our deal, right? You wait for me." And when I'm 30 years old and I've already, gone through the Sandbergian hypergamy plan, then if you're still single, then I'll be happy to marry you. And what's funny about that whole thing is it's ironic, because most beta guys will do that. They'll be like, "Oh, really? Hope against hope." And that's really kind of what they're doing. They become what I call betas in waiting. and they're waiting for their own sexual strategy, which is like, you know, concentrate on one woman, concentrate on themselves, build themselves up and all that stuff, and build them up to a point where that when they get to be 30 years old, that they're going to be the ideal perfect boyfriend for that guy.
It's like having a long distance relationship, which never works. It always works to the advantage of the woman, but it always puts the guy at a disadvantage.
Right. So let's go back to can't and won't. This goes back to one of my my iron rules, probably my most contentious iron rule, which is iron rule number 3, which is any woman that makes you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. Now, a lot of women say, well, what do you mean? She has to be loose. She has to be, you guys need to get your story straight, because, you say you want to have a woman who's sexually available, but then you want a woman who's going to be this perfect, mother. It's like the Madonna whore complex. Right? And so you have to understand that when I'm talking about that, the reason that I made that a rule is not because I'm expecting guys to go and have sex with women on the first date. I also have another extension to that rule, which is the 3 strikes rule, right? So after 3 dates, if you haven't been able to determine whether or not she has genuine desire for you, then it's time to move on. There's time to find something else. That's basic old school stuff. That's like Tom Likas stuff. 3 strikes and you're out. I mean, that's pretty basic, right? If you're extending it past then, if you're out at like date number 5 or date number 6, you've probably been at it for about 6 weeks. And I think within 3 dates, you can figure whether or not that woman is really into you or she's not. Now, this goes back to what we were talking about in the description here, which is the ride or die girl, the girl who is the hell yes. When you say, hey, would you go on a date with me? She's like, hell yes, I would love to go. She jumps at the chance. She's enthusiastic about being with you. So when I talk about how the sex is not worth the wait, the reason for that is what I'm hoping that guys will get in their heads, right? The reason being is that if a woman is not immediately into you, if she's not immediately aroused by you, and I maybe an immediate, by immediate I mean within 3 dates, if she's not that hot for you, maybe it's logistics or whatever, if she hasn't displayed real, genuine, enthusiastic desire and interest in you, then there's something there that's mitigating that, and that's what you mean by what you mean by can't and won't. Yeah. So if a woman can't do something, that's logistics. That's I can't. My father's birthday is this weekend or something like that. Right. Can't is one thing. Won't is putting you on hold until you're 30 years old to marry you. Okay, I won't marry you right now. I might in the future because my situations will change and my priorities will change as a woman. And maybe you'll be who I need you to be by then, and hopefully you'll still be stupid.
Any guy that agrees to that, 2 things. Number 1, you're a fool, an absolute fool. And number 2, you have told not only her, but the whole world, you don't have any other options.
Yeah, you're completely optionless. So when it comes to can't and won't, I think what guys need to get from iron rule number 3 is that it's about genuine desire. It's about determining genuine desire levels. And guys say, like, I even added, I think in the book I added that maybe you are limited by your religion or your personal beliefs about premarital sex. Okay, fine, I get that, but a woman should want to have sex with you, would want to break her rules to have sex with you. And maybe you're not going to break those rules, but she should want to break those rules. She should have so much desire for you that she's going to change her religion. She's going to have.
I was just going to get to that, because you go through a whole list. She should be willing to leave her family, move, and change her religion. All of those things for you, like that. And
maybe not just like that, but within 3 dates, let's just say that if that being the most extreme binary example of something like that. But what I'm saying is that a woman, that's the kind of desire that you want. That's the ride or die girl. That's the girl who's going to break you out of jail to get to you. That's the girl who's going to break into jail to go and have sex with you. All right. That's the
girl that will hide in your closet naked. Remember you said that one before.
That's the hell yes girl. That's the girl who's going to hide and who doesn't care that you're married, who doesn't care about, she has, remember what we say is women will break rules for alphas and they will make more rules for betas. Mm-hmm. And so that I think, and the reason I wanted to start there when it comes to vetting is genuine desire should be the number 1 basis for who you are going to spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of guys get thrown for a loop, because they tend to be, well, majority of men tend to be betas, like 80-20 rule, right? So when guys get to be about 30 years old and they believe their pastor and they say, okay, I'll marry this chick, right? That's when they believe that they still have that idealistic belief that no woman would marry a guy who wasn't the best sex that she ever had. And so I'm going to be if she's my wife and she's going to be spending the rest of her life with me, she should also know that I'm going to be the only person that she has sex with for the rest of her life. So these guys will get into a position where they're getting kind of like that starfish sex. They're getting that lackluster kind of unenthusiastic sex, sometimes called duty sex. They'll be getting that kind of response from their wife, but then they'll make up rationales as well. She's just not as sexual as other girls, or we have mismatched libidos. And
why do they lie to themselves? Why do they do that?
Because they have, well, first of all, they're in a position where they have to lie to themselves, because they're still ego invested in those blue pill Disney hopes and dreams that a woman is going to share the same concept of love that he is. And also, I wrote a post called Saving the Best, and Saving the Best has easily one of my most contentious posts. It's the highest traffic post on the Rational Male. And it is about a guy who married a woman who was so crazy in her college years, but is over that and is done with that, and made him jump through all these hoops to marry her. And I think 6 or 8 months into the relationship or into the marriage, he finds some old videotapes or some old video.
You titled that one, "Are You Getting Her Best?"
Well, that's the best. There's 2 of them actually, but the first one was "Saving the Best" is what the title of that is. So if anybody's, I'll put it in the description as well.
But she was doing all this crazy stuff.
She was doing all this crazy stuff. Yeah.
And with him, it was just missionary, maybe every other Saturday, something like that.
So and let me explain this, because I don't think I've ever said this before. We've already discussed that women will break rules for alphas and they will make more rules for betas. Well, when a beta is married and he's had to go and jump through all of those hoops and he's had to obey all of those rules, there is nothing more disillusioning and nothing more frustrating for a man to discover or to find out or to even see in real time, visual real time, a woman giving her sexual best to another guy who didn't have to go through all of that, who didn't have to obey those rules. He just had to be Jason Momoa, right? He just had to be the hot guy in the foam cannon party at the right time. And she just loses herself. She gives to that guy a part of herself, a sexual part of herself that she will never give to the beta guy. And because he's the guy that jumps through all the hoops, he's the guy that he's the beta. He's the one that has to bring resources to her, has to pick the nits off of her. He's the one that has to qualify to her all the time in order to have sexual access. But then when that guy who's been married to her, and the deal is this, till death do us part, and he sees that in her past, she was much more sexual, much more into it, and she loved, oral sex, and she loved doing all these things that she wouldn't do for him. That guy loses, well, first of all, he loses his mind, but he loses his, I want to say his naivete, so that he has 2 choices. He goes into denial, or he's out and he's done with it. And he goes and he posts something on the Red Pill Reddit, or posts something, so Rollo Tomasi can tell him what's really going on, or he's going to make up his own rationales. And that's what you're talking about right there, is why do these guys believe that lie? Because they have to. They have something, because they don't have options, and they're locked in, but they're also, it's this existential fear. It's this, it's a scarcity mentality, of course, but there's a lot that goes along with it. But they have to go into denial, and to deal with denial, they have to create rationales.
So you talk about starfish sex, and there was a friend of mine, I think I may have shared this either on the local program or one of the podcasts in the past. But basically, the story is like this: and he's very persistent. Gee, like somebody I know. Hello, and got to the point where the wife finally, she didn't go starfish on him, but she goes, "Go ahead, get it over with." To me, I don't care if you've been married 5, 10, 15, 25 years. That is a game changer right there. Nothing could push me away quicker or alienate me quicker than that, because it's game over.
Right. Because what that is the confirmation of you wondering whether or not she has genuine desire for you. So imagine you're that guy. Imagine you're the guy. She get it over with. I got laundry. I got to fold laundry after this, or you're just another chore.
Right.
Think of it, that's an analogous situation to, like, say, primates in the jungle, where female apes who are not in estrus will allow a beta male to have sexual access to her, but she's not into it. She's not proceptive about it. And then when she goes into estrus, she goes and she forces all these guys out of her sphere. All of the female apes beta orbiters get chewed out and pushed to the side, and she becomes proceptive for the alpha male of that tribe and of that group, and not only gives him sexual access, but is eager and enthusiastic to do so because he has greater reproductive value than the beta males that are in that tribe. So when we look at that as an analogous situation for human beings, when women are in their luteal phase, they first of all, they tend to go in just like what's kind of a semi-nesting kind of thing. Once they've gone through the ovulation and they go into that nesting phase, and they need their emotional tampons, they need their beta orbiters to come and be a shoulder to be a shoulder to cry on, and they're there. And then when women go into PMS is, she gets really bitchy during PMS. Right. What that is, at least this is the theory, is that she pushes those guys off and away from her so that she can go out on her girls' night out with her girls within a week of doing so, because she'll be in a proliferative phase of her ovulatory cycle. And then that's what she's going to go and look for, the more masculine guy, or the hot guy in the foam cannon party. That's what that happens with that.
So that reminds me of another listener email that I wanted to get into you with this, and it's the can't and won't thing again. So this guy, I want to say maybe about 40, maybe a little bit younger, but he's been living with a chick for about 2 years, and they're both into bikes and stuff. They planned a trip to go to Sturgis for that big biker.
Yep, I know where it is.
And then he had put all the money into it, and taking the time off from work and everything. And then some concert came up. I don't even know who it was, that her and her girlfriends really wanted to go to. So she wigs out on him, and I got to go to this because this is really important to me. We haven't seen so-and-so in, forever. Mm-hmm. That to me right there, that's talk about telegraphing a punch. You're no longer the most important thing in her life. If for guys, especially younger guys, and we'll talk about this at the Patriarch convention, the man should always be the priority in your life. If you're not that, it's time to move on.
And that's why when I spoke about how sex is the glue that holds a relationship together, that's why women lose it for that, because there are certain things that, like when a woman is with a guy who her hindbrain confirms as being a beta, she either sort of settles into it and resolves to be this guy's wife, or she's going to look outside the marriage. Now, if she is within that marriage, and she's within that, that long-term relationship, whatever, maybe she's bred with this guy, maybe they have children together. Right. Other things become more important than the relationship, the children's education, the children, usually it's the kids, because women use kids as their most convenient rationale for why they behave and they do the things that they do, because women are we think this just naturally, that women are always going to be better with kids. They're always going to be the nurturer. They're always going to be that. Well, I think that's probably something I'm going to talk about with you actually at the 21 convention this weekend or next weekend, is the importance of a man or of a father playing that role or being at least as important, if not more important, in the upbringing of that child, and that men should not necessarily be seen as less important in parenting just because they're men, or it shouldn't be that women should seem more important just because they're women, because we tend to think of women as being able to do it all. We tend to think of women as their nurturement role is more important.
The younger years, though, especially when the child's very small, the mother has a biological advantage. Right. Moms, the whole idea of just getting up several times a night to take care of a baby. I'd be the absolute grouchiest guy on the planet, or even handling the little things, the day-to-day things. Women, it's I don't want to say inbred, but it's in their DNA to be nurturing. That's why, I mentioned teaching before. Seldom, if ever, do you see guys teaching like third grade and down. It's because they don't have the patience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do see somebody doing that, they tend to be a little odd, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not in our DNA. Whereas when they get older, I think the dad is as important, if not more important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
In raising a child, you need both. You need both.
Yeah, and again, we're better together than we are apart. And I kind of wanted to get into that too here, because I think that there's the reason that we started this out saying, if you want to get into a long-term relationship,
Right.
if you want to get married, I'm not advocating for marriage. Certainly not. Certainly not after our talk with Dr. Ever Piper. But I'm not advocating for marriage today. But that doesn't stop men from wanting to have kids. That doesn't stop men from wanting to be in that. I think that there's still kind of a particularly for guys who understand that they don't have the kind of sexual access like, say, an alpha guy would, or a guy who is natural with girls, right? That guy has access to have many women. Most guys don't have that. And most guys realize that on the back of their head in some level of consciousness. They understand that that's why men develop a scarcity mentality and they become optionless, because they focus on one girl. They don't have a belief in themselves that they could generate more options, or that they could be spinning plates, or they could be non-exclusive. For most guys, that's like an alien thought, because they've been brought up, to pedestalize womankind, to defer to the feminine. And so they're happy and they're eager to put off their own sexual strategy and adopt the sexual strategy of a woman. And fulfill, not to adopt hers, but to fulfill hers. And be like, I'm only one guy at a time, and then or one girl at a time, and you have these guys who become serial monogamists, and they I
like that line too, serial monogamous.
Yeah, they lock themselves into one-itis and the soulmate myth, and anything else that helps them explain away why it is that they're only a one man or only one woman man. And so, but most guys will do that, and I think that even for alpha guys who have sexual access, when they get to a certain age and they've had, they've sown their wild oats or whatever. I think that guys, even the most alpha guys, still want to have kids at some point, because they want to have a son, or they want to pass on whatever, there's still there's an innate desire to know that the paternity is theirs, and to actually have the paternity, to actually have kids. I think there is a definite desire amongst all men to want to do that, because paternity is a very, very strong evolved drive in men.
Let's talk about two things here. When it comes to marriage, the purpose for marriage, if the reason I got married is I wanted to have kids with my wife, right? Okay. If I didn't, I wouldn't have gotten married. Now there's different phases too, because I'm seeing stuff in some of the chat here. When you're talking about, there's a lot of guys out there, 35, 40, 45, sometimes even older, okay, who find themselves divorced again or something like that, where they're looking. So the second time around, you're not going to be wanting to have children necessarily, right? And you're getting married for different reasons. It's not just for a companionship, whatever you want to call it. I remember when Socrates spoke at the 21 convention, he talked about, I guess, before he met the lady he's with right now. He's against marriage, but he's with a lady, and they've had a daughter, I think, together. But he won some big award in architecture, right? And he's got the award, and he goes, I went home, and he said, I didn't have anyone to share it with. And that gets into, you got to watch it, because we don't want to get into, you don't want to die old and alone, because you can fall into that trap. But there is something to be said to have somebody that you can share things with, somebody who you can actually, I hate to use the word companion, because it's more than that, but there is that component in this. It makes a difference when you get married, what you actually want out of the relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I think that's, I think it was Robin Williams who said something to the effect that loneliness is not something to be feared, but to be with somebody who actually makes you lonely. And I think that was, like, I'm paraphrasing, it's probably something completely different than that. But I think that when a guy gets into a relationship who thinks, well, this is someone I can really share things with, and then turns out that she's really not as into him as he would like to build her into, or in his head he's built this woman into his perfect companion, and then finds out that, and I'm not saying this happened with Socrates, but like, say you have something that you want to share, and then you've got a woman there who could really give a rat's ass about it.
When I looking back now, when I was younger, I didn't think that stuff was important. I think you need to be when you're looking for a potential spouse, a couple things. You got to find out who she is, what she's all about. Is she a follower or a leader? If you're a leader and she's a follower, that's doable. Okay. If you're both followers, you're going to be lost. If she's a leader and you're a follower, well, we know who's going to be running the household there, right?
Right. But I think women naturally look for men to be in the leadership role. I think they look for them, they look for masculine dominance, but primarily they're looking for competency. They want a guy who can fix things or make things better when everything goes to hell. And
but they've been programmed though, to do that for themselves now. They don't need the guy.
Right. But they can't. Well, here's the thing: is women can do that. Women can get a job. More women are in college than men are right now. That's again, that's another thing that pastors complain about is men are manning up. They're not planning for a future to be a husband and a father. Well, yeah, because it's not necessarily because they want to prolong their adolescence. It's because they see what's the point. They're like, what? Why bother with it when divorce is so high? But like when marriage, you see the marriage rates dropping, and it's primarily because women have that access. They have the access to do things for themselves. I make my own damn money. Remember, I was reading that song on your show on Friday from what was it, Little Mix, and what was the hell the name of the thing? I forget. Anyway, I'll put the lyrics.
I don't need no damn man.
I don't need no man. I'll put a rock on my own finger. Okay, so there is that, and women can do that. And I think guys realize that at some level they realize that women are taking care of the beta buck side of hypergamy for themselves. So what's left? Of course, it's alpha side, the alpha seed side of the whole thing. They want to have hot short-term sex with the fun guy. The guy, they want to follow the Sandbergian plan of hypergamy. Well, that's okay. And I understand that. I understand that women can do that, but that doesn't eliminate the evolved need for that. There's a lot of different ways that women seek security in men that have nothing to do with finances, have nothing to do with money. Women seek security in men because, and sometimes, when we talk about how women have daddy issues, usually it's because either daddy wasn't there or daddy was so beta that he couldn't.
Right.
He was incompetent. He was ridiculous, stupid daddy. He was Homer Simpson, right? He was Everybody Loves Raymond. He was that guy. And so she's looking for that competency. She's looking for that dominance. She's looking for them. Like a lot of guys want to say, you need a woman who's going to submit. Well, submit always, I hate to use the term submit because submit has negative connotations. It's like, oh, I'm going to submit on my hands and knees. No, it's not so much about submission as it is about her having genuine desire for you. Her having an organic need, like her not even having to think about it. We were talking on the Red Man, or was it the Red Man? It was either Red Man Group or it was Red Line. We were talking about how women go out on girls' nights out, and should I let her go to? She wants permission to go to Las Vegas with her girls for a girls' night out, kind of thing. And the real issue is not her asking permission or her going and doing that. It's her making that decision for herself already. Because in her head, she's already there with her girlfriends in Las Vegas on her girls' night out. You are just an obstacle. You are just something that's in between.
That it tricks you into thinking you're making the decision for her, but you haven't. She's already made the decision.
So the decision is that her desire for you is less than her desire to go out with her girlfriends on girls' night out or weekend out. So what you're seeing, and this is why I wrote, the medium is the message. It's not the issue of you letting her go or anything like that. It's that she wants to go. She's placing that above you in the priority list. So that's why it's so bloody important for men when they are vetting. The number one thing that they should vet for is genuine desire. She has to be into you. Now, it's not submission, because submission almost seems like an obligation. And remember what I said, how you cannot negotiate desire, because when you do negotiate desire, you only end up with obligated compliance or you get resistance, those two things.
So if women are listening to this, here's what they're going to hear. Oh, I can never do anything for myself. I always have to do it for him. That's not what we're saying.
No.
I think with your own wife, you have to give people some space, right? But that's not what you're talking about here. There's a big difference.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think, and I understand this is in the Bible, right? But it's like when in the Bible, I think it was Paul who said, women must submit to their husbands. That submission almost seems like a master and servant thing. It almost seems like a master and slave kind of thing. Like you have to do what the man says because of the Garden of Eden or whatever, you want to debate about it, but she is to be subordinate to you, and he makes the decisions for your life, and he will guide you as to where the family is going to go. But there's also the burden of performance on the guy. The guy actually has to be competent enough to earn that woman's, or to only earn, but like to guarantee, or to warrant her desire for you. So if you are the guy that, if you're dominant, if you are competent, if you can check off enough of the boxes. I'm not saying that like you have to do every single one of these. I think that's another misnomer that guys have, is that they have to be everything all the time. Women's stated standards, all the stuff that they say on their dating profile, all of that falls by the wayside for the right guy. For the guy that has that look, or he makes her laugh in that way, or whatever, all this stuff about how he's got to be this and this and this and this, a lot of that is less important than other things that are at the higher end of the priority scale for them.
If a woman has genuine desire for you, and it's real, and again, it can't be negotiated, you can't talk her into it kind of stuff, she is going to want to intuitively serve you. And I'm not talking like a waitress at a restaurant. She's going to want to take care of you. It's like I said, it's intuitive, it's natural. But if it's real, that's the kind of person you're going to find. She wants to cook for you. She wants to take care of you. All these different things. Not like a mommy, but as a wife.
Right. I talk about that in a couple of posts that I've written about empathy, and how we have this mistaken idea, this mythological idea that women have some sort of, supernatural capacity for empathy. And that's simply not true. Women, we want to place that on them. I think maybe women can be more sympathetic than men in some ways, but empathic or empathetic, no, because there's two different definitions of that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because women will give their sympathies or their empathy, such as it is, to men on their own volition. When men expect sympathy or they expect empathy from a woman, there's nothing that makes a woman more disgusted with a guy than a guy who says, "Oh, I need some sympathy," or "I need pity," or "I need your help," or "I need," because men might seek that. And a lot of guys in relationships get into trouble about this, because they think that, well, gosh, how come she's so cold to me when I'm sick, or how come she's so mean when I'm between jobs. There's another thing, right? When I was between jobs, she just kind of turned off to me in a way that I've never seen her before. And guys will say, well, women will say, "Oh, you just married the wrong guy or the wrong girl." No, it's not. It has anything to do with that. It has to do with women will apply their empathy and apply their sympathy by themselves. If you ask for it, you are negotiating desire. You are negotiating. You're saying, "How come you're not, you need to be more sympathetic to me when I, it's like that Campbell soup commercial that the feminists hated so much. It's like that guy was sick on the couch and he said something like, "My mom always made me soup when I was sick," and she just tosses him a can of soup and heads out the door and says, "I'm not your mother."
Also, if you're in between jobs, and I don't know how long we're talking here, but if it's like 6 months, a year,
the clock's ticking.
Part of the reason that's been withdrawn is you have demonstrated to her incompetence. You're not the guy you presented yourself as. Right. I'll share something personal with you. Somebody said something to me, a lady said something to me that really caught me off guard. It was, "You're not being properly taken care of." That's got all sorts, but there's somebody who gets it, totally gets it.
Right. Well, remember, women make rules for betas and they break rules for alphas. So if you're a guy that is consistently predominantly alpha, and she recognizes that you're in your frame, you have a ride or die girl, you have the hell yeah girl. If you get into a bad situation, she's going to be the girl that's going to say, "Don't worry, honey, we'll get through this together. We're going to, we're a team. We'll get you back. I don't care if you got disabled." It's like the who is it? Remember when Christopher Reeves got Superman got immobilized, right? He was quadriplegic, actually. And everybody made these stories about his wife, and I can't remember her name right now. I think well, obviously it's Reeves, but she was a ride or die girl. She was with that guy till the end. And so women like to use that and say, well, look, see, all women don't just up and leave you when you're hurt or you're gone. It's like, yeah, but you have to understand that she had a relationship with him that was based on her hindbrain understanding that the guy that she had married was a predominant competent alpha prior to his being disabled. And one of
financially super comfortable. So that's going to,
they're financially comfortable.
If he had been a cashier at Walmart, it might have been a very different story.
Well, the point that I'm making here is that if you're just a regular average dude, I mean, one of the reasons why women don't want to marry guys who are who they think are beneath them in sexual market value, or who don't have the same education level, or who don't make the same amount of money. One of the reasons why women tend to divorce those guys for the stay-at-home, the stay-at-home husband, right? The house husband. One of the reasons why that is, why women divorce those guys so much is because they see a man, their natural instinct sees a man that is a burden to them. And he's going to get us killed. He is a liability to me and the kids. And because we can't, obviously he's not bringing anything in, but he still needs to be fed. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he's disabled. There's that part,
right?
Yeah. Well, there's that part of that woman's hindbrain and her instincts that say this guy is a liability. And maybe that's not in the beginning. Maybe the guy's alpha enough to carry himself for 6 or 8 months. But like Chris Rock always says, if you lose your job, the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
And so how long you have on that clock might be sooner or might be later, depending on what your wife or your girlfriend or whoever sees you predominantly as. Oh, he's going to bounce back. He's going to come back from this. That's why when guys become alcoholics or they become drug addicts or whatever, remember, I should also say, when women go back with an abusive guy, there's also the subconscious understanding of where she fits in on that sexual market value scale. So you can have, like, guys will ask me this all the time. They'll say, I seen this girl who she's a solid 9, and the guy that she's with is just this horrible, he's mean, he's a jerk, he's arrogant, he's fat, he's, whatever. And they say, how does that work? How could that possibly happen? Well, one of the reasons why this happens, there's a lot of different ways a lot of different scenarios. It could be that there's just some sort of deficit that he makes up for with something else. But I would say that the most common scenario amongst when you see that kind of imbalance, and we naturally see that as an imbalance, is that woman, her self-esteem or her self-understanding of her personal worth and her sexual market value, she believes in the back of her head that this guy is the best she can do, or there's something about him that places him above her in sexual market value. That's why she keeps going back to that guy. That's why when you have a girl who is, semi-attractive girl, she keeps going back to the abusive boyfriend. It's because she thinks that that's the best she can do, because her hypergamy has said, we'll never get a guy that's as good as this for whatever reason. Now, it can be psychological reasons. It can be daddy issues. It can be all this other stuff. But the basic equation here is that she sees herself her sexual market value is below his. So she keeps coming back to that, thinking that that's the best that she can do.
Let me ask you a question on this, okay? And I want to know if it's more of a generational thing. I could not be in a position, I got to be careful here too, because I've got friends who are in a situation like this. I could not be in a situation where my wife was earning more than me, significantly earning more than me. I don't know if it's my ego, if it's the way I was programmed.
Right. And most women will agree with you too. Yeah. Most women will say, I need a guy that makes more money than me.
Right. And then also, I couldn't be the stay-at-home daddy. I would go out of my freaking mind, especially when the kids are small. I don't have the proper, well, first of all, I don't have patience, and I don't have the nurturing abilities. I give you a quick example here. My daughter, one of my daughters is married, and her husband is in a situation right now where she was making more than him, but it's a temporary thing. He's out there busting his ass with extra jobs. He's got himself back in school because he's like me, okay? His ego is not going to let him be number 2. He's got to be number 1. And if it requires busting your ass, he's going to do it. The problem is I see, especially with millennials, this attitude where I'm just going to do what I need to do to get by. And that people that are talking like we're talking right here, man, you're old school. That was yesterday. This is the new way. It's like they've been reprogrammed to see this as acceptable.
Right. Well, most of that is because of blue pill conditioning from where we've raised generation after generation, or the village has raised generation after generation to do just enough, to just be passable, to not worry about those things because the juice ain't worth the squeeze. And I don't mean that just with chicks. I mean that with like just life in general. Like I want to go live the way I want to live. The sacrifice I would have to make would be like to have a cubicle job or something like that. And guys, and women say, you know what, I don't want to do that because the juice is not worth the squeeze. So at the end of the day, one of the reasons we get these guys who are like in Japan, they call them the hikikomori. They're youthful, young shut-ins. Like they don't want to go out, and they're doing just enough to sustain that lifestyle of escapism. And that's good enough for them. I don't know what's going to happen with these guys when they get to be a little bit older. But I think that, I mean, as far as the wanting to do something, or the preparing for that, there's just no, guys don't see the option. They don't see the value in doing something.
I think a lot of women too, if they're being completely honest with you, are envious of maybe a stay-at-home wife situation. I'd like to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that. Well, just think of all the things I could do, right?
I tell guys this, there's a difference between a woman who's a careerist woman and then there's a woman who's just got a job. Okay. Right. My wife has a job. She works. But it's because in this day and age, just to have even one kid, it requires 2 incomes and a side hustle. That's what it requires. If you want to live the kind of life that you want to live, 2 incomes and a side hustle is what's required. If you're a guy, I mean, imagine you're a guy that has enough money and has enough stability and has enough security to say, don't worry about it, babe. You don't have to worry. You don't have to bring in any income. I make enough to keep the kid here, to keep the kids, happy and you happy and everything. That is a dream come true. What woman would pass that up? The only woman that would is a careerist woman. And that's the difference I want to make, is that again, having a job doesn't make a woman a careerist.
A careerist is you're never going to be number one in her life. She has put herself as a priority always.
And I will say this, I would make this argument here, is that women who have the stay-at-home guy, like a good example, again, Sheryl Sandberg, the woman who is that careerist woman who wants to be on the pages of Forbes or whatever, she wants a guy who is above her, but she can't get that. But I would say that those women predominantly have those house husbands. They have the guy who makes less than they do. They have the guy who is maybe not as ambitious as she is. Those are the guys, because think about it this way, and that's one of the reasons why women tend to divorce those guys, or to tend to divorce the Mr. Mom, right? I've written actually probably 3 different posts about the Mr. Mom thing. But the reason for that is she will go to work and she's around high-powered men who direct her, who she is subordinate to. Do you think that she's going to want to come home from a 40-hour work week and submit to her husband, who is the house husband, who's there changing diapers, who hasn't made himself up, hasn't done anything to really.
There's guys that do that. We all know, we've talked about this before. You got guys that are totally alpha at work and they go home and now they're the baby.
Yeah, and they submit and they do submit. But there's a different dynamic to that though, because women are looking for the bigger and better deal. Women are hypergamous, men are, we spread the seed, right? So women are looking for the higher quality. They're looking for the guy who can dominate them. And the only men who regularly dominate a careerist woman are the people who are signing her paychecks. So when guys do that, when guys come home and say they're super alpha at work, right, and they come back and they're little boys with their wives, or they are subordinate to their wives, it's usually because they have been preconditioned through the blue pill or religion or whatever to defer to the feminine. So those guys make some of the worst white knights you'll ever want to meet too, because they'll go and defend milady's honor because that's what they feel, but they're alpha enough to enact it, to enforce their will.
Here's the deal too, that when you're in the complementary relationship, that's ideal. We're better together than we are apart, and you've got one that's in charge and the other submits. Where you run into trouble, and these are the ones that always get the headlines, are the dicks that abuse that power.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had Dr. Piper, who I think went to a real extreme, you know, yeah, but you got to be like Christ, willing to give your life. Well, most guys aren't going to give their life for their wife.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's the guy has to understand, you know, with great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to abuse that, right?
Yeah, well, and that's, I think Dr. Piper ran to that rationale very quickly because, you know, he wants to play both sides. And I think that in our modern thought, we tend to think as egalitarians, or we think that that's the correct way to think about things. Whereas
that's the very thing he agreed with you on. He said it isn't, it can't be egalitarian.
Yeah, it can't be egalitarian, yet he advocates, or he jumps to an egalitarian conclusion as his default, which is, well, you know, women do this, but guys do it too. No, men and women are different. We have different priorities. We have different, you know, we have different ways of being. We're complements to each other, but we have different ways of thinking. We have different ways of emoting. We have different ways of just living. We have different concepts of love. We have different concepts of honor. We have different concepts of respect. So to say, you know, well, men do something just as bad. Well, yeah, okay, they can be. Men can take that dominance to an unhealthy level. But women are looking for that. Why is 50 Shades of Grey such a huge success amongst women? Why did it outsell the Bible for a while? Yeah, because
that's the biggest surprise there.
Yeah, well, it's funny is you look at the character types, the archetypes of the guy. Was it Christian Grey or something like that? I can't remember his name. The guy, the lead, the male character in 50 Shades of Grey, and the male character in Twilight, like Edward, right? They're the same character. They have like unlimited power in some respect. They are sexy enough to pass the physical requirements, but they're dominant. They are dominant males. They drive the discussion. It's their will that makes the choices for that woman because she trusts him enough to do that. And that's another area I wanted to get to before we end this. We got about half an hour now.
You also want to get to
I got the super. I should always say this too, because we're at the bottom of the hour. All of the supers, we will get to those. I have them collected here. If you want to get a super in, that's fine. We're going to do these at the end because I want to stay on topic and I want to hit everything that we're talking about hard here.
You want to make, because I want to get to, because the whole purpose of this is vetting women, and I want to get to younger guys in particular. How do you know? How can you tell? How can you discern that are her priority? What are the red flags?
All right. Well, I got one. It wasn't even a super. I got this guy who said, what do you mean by dominate? Dominate? How do you dominate a woman? Right? They want like 12 steps to domination.
That's not what you do.
It's personality. It's who you are. You want to be a dominant personality in your relationship. Make sure that you are your mental point of origin. That any decision that you make, you consider how it affects you before you consider how it affects anybody else. So that I think is the number one. Any guy who's like unplugging from the matrix, any guy who wants to become red pill aware, you have to make yourself your first priority. And people say, well, that's selfishness. No, it's not selfishness. It's self-concern. It's enlightened self-interest is what it is. But I'm not saying don't think about other people. Of course, you think about other people, but in your thought process, well, most men don't realize this, is that from a very early age, from the time Johnny was 5 years old, he's been taught to think of other people before himself and to be serviceable to women and to defer to mommy and to defer to girlfriend and to defer to wife, so that when they get to be 30 years old and he is ready and waiting, beta and waiting, that he'll make the perfect little husband and do what he's told. So anyways, I just wanted to get back to like what we were talking about here, and this will dovetail nicely into the vetting part, is that when one of the things that guys need to vet for is genuine desire. We already said that. That's the number one thing I think guys need to vet for. Sometimes that can change throughout the relationship, and that's one of the things that guys need to be hyper aware of. If there's one thing, like I always tell guys that you guys need to internalize the red pill and internalize what it is that, you know, the realities of intersexual dynamics. And then once those become part of your personality, it's not something that you have to like keep pouring water on to watch it grow. Okay. It's just something that happens naturally. But one thing you do need to keep in mind is natural desire. Is my wife, am I the first desire of my wife? Am I who she wants? Am I answering that hypergamous question? Am I the best that she can get? And when you know that, when you get to the point where you say, I know that I'm the best that she can get. And you have that confidence, you make yourself your mental point of origin. You even get a little cocky about that. You know, you don't self-deprecate anymore. We've talked about that. You're not self-deprecating. And maybe you say, hey, you know, I am the best that she can get. And say that not being, you know, full of myself, but you know, being a truthful statement. So now there's that. And the other thing that I think men need to vet for as well is, does she trust you with her life? And I've told this, I've said this before on Rich Cooper's show, because he's asked me this question before. What should I be looking for in a woman? And so if there's another aspect after desire, it's going to be, I don't want to say trust so much as it is, well, I guess, yeah, trust. Does she trust you with her life? When, like, and I use this example as like, I'm going to say, hey, Miss Tomasi, we're going to go skydiving, and I packed you a parachute. Here, put it on. Let's go. If you said that to your wife, what is she going to say? Hell, oh my God, you know, I don't trust you. Oh, does she trust out of a plane? Yeah, I'm not jumping out of a plane for you. I'm not. Would your wife take a bullet for you? That's another good one. Because we like to think, you know,
the bodyguard, throwing myself in front of Whitney, right?
Yeah, exactly. Would she take a bullet for you? Would she break you out of jail? Would she hijack the police car if you were handcuffed in the backseat? I've read that story before as well. But what I mean by that is that, of course, that's desire, but it's also trust. Because when you get into a long-term relationship, and let's just say that the ultimate goal of that is marriage. Marriage is ostensibly for life, right? It's something that I'm going to be with this person for the rest of my life. I'm going to share the remaining experiences that I have in my life. I want to share those experiences with this woman. I want to have kids with this woman. I want to share that experience with her. I want to go to Tahiti, or going to share that with her. I'm going to go, you know, my father is going to die. I want to share that experience with her. You know, whatever, all of those things but guys, I don't think we really put it into this kind of long-term perspective. But is she somebody that deserves that is a good vetting aspect? But also, is she someone that trusts me with her life? Because if we're living together, and I'm the one who is insisting on frame, and I'm the one that she's marrying because I'm the one who's confident, or I'm the one who answers the question, is he the best I can do? She still has to trust me implicitly to guide the ship, to drive the car, to decide where we're going to go. Most women will get into a situation with a beta guy and they don't trust him. They don't trust him to pack the parachute, right? They don't trust
and loyalty are two biggies with me. I mean, not just marriage or a sexual relationship, but just in general.
It's okay. And those are two different things. To trust a woman is one thing. And we've already had that episode we've already gone through.
Can you trust
but the opposite, I think that what's more important is, does she trust you? Does she trust you to be a father? Does she trust you to be, to be competent, to solve the problems? Like, if the world goes to hell, are you going to be the guy that she's going to seek out to protect her from the bands of roving gangsters or whatever? You know, is she going to be the one that's going to be with you because she believes in either your intellect or your strength or whatever it is that is a part of you? Is like, I've talked about this before, the war brides dynamic, and I should probably do a show on the war brides dynamic. But the war brides dynamic, in a nutshell, is that women have an innate, evolved sense of, for lack of a better term, for Stockholm syndrome. So they will identify with their accusers or their abusers or their captors, and the reason for that is that back in our ancestral past, women, we evolved in tribal hunter-gatherer groups. Well, when one tribe would come and kill off all the men and the boys of another tribe,
Marry somebody with
they,
the new ones.
they would, exactly. They would spare the women because women were valuable. Women were valuable for breeding. And so they would save that. And so for women's psychological health, they had to develop parts of their evolutionary firmware, in the back of their hindbrain, their instincts, to be able to dissociate themselves from the man that they were with before, who might be dead now because the tribe has been conquered.
This is why women are or guys are blown away. Say you've been married to somebody for 10 years. And all of a sudden you get divorced and bingo, she's in another relation. How did she get over me that quickly?
Yeah, guys ask me that all the time. Right. That's actually where the war brought. When I was thinking about it, guys were asking me that question. I'm like, what is it about our ancestral past that would prompt women to have some sort of innate facility to just abandon one guy and get on with another guy? Well, there's another post that I've written that's called Widows and War Brides, because guys have challenged me, and I wrote about this. They challenged me. They said, well, isn't there a conflict between the war brides dynamic and the alpha widows dynamic? Because women will pine for their most predominant alpha in their life and use that man as the benchmark for any other man that comes after that. Now, the way that this gels is because if a man from a competing tribe has come in and killed off all the men folk in your tribe and has taken you hostage and is breeding with you, is that guy now more alpha than the guy who couldn't protect you? Should you not just be with the guy who is more dominant than the guy that you were with before that he managed to kill off? That is, and this is real harsh, like visceral evolutionary theory. But that's one of the reasons why women are attracted to violence, because violence is a demonstration of higher value. And there is no demonstration higher amongst men than to kill another man, to beat that guy down into submission. Why do you think that UFC and MMA is so popular right now? It's because it's satisfying. Women will say, "Oh, the violence is horrible," but yet it's only women who get hybristophilia, or it's only women who will go and find guys in jail and convicted murderers as somehow sexy. Right. Guys don't do that. Why? Because we have different sexual strategies. We're not looking for the best and the brightest. We're only looking for the hottest and the most available. So why is violence attractive to women? It's because it's a demonstration of higher value, and as doing that, it demonstrates that guy has a dominance or has a competency that the other guy didn't have. So she gets more hot for a guy like Jason Momoa, and she tells you, don't worry about him, because you represent that kind of emotional security in the beta buck side of hypergamy. Right. But her arousal is for Jason Momoa. So
somebody in here says women get over it so quickly because they always have a plan B, C, D, and E.
Yes.
I think one of the things I noticed about that, though, and I will say that most women probably do have a B plan, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the kicker. The
I can show you the stats.
Well, yeah. The people that make the loudest stink about you when I bring you on my show locally are, I guess, middle-aged women, probably around that 50-ish mark, that are either menopausal or post-menopausal. You represent a threat to them. They do not, if they're still lucky enough to still be married to the guy they've been married to for 30 years, they do not want him listening to you and becoming aware that, guess what? She's not the only thing you can have. They are scared to death that the husband's going to hear that message and maybe get woke.
There is nothing more threatening, but also simultaneously attractive, as a man who is aware of his sexual market value. A guy who knows what the game is about, who knows where he fits into the role of all that. And the guy
that guy that's been married for like 20, 25 years, and all of a sudden your wife realizes that, wait a minute, he's got other options. Guess what?
Right.
You're in for
right. And the reason why it comes from that demographic is because those women are in the most vulnerable, most necessitous part of their life. They know they can't go back. They know that they can't go back. Once they hit the wall, they can't go back across the wall. Usually they can't do that. Certainly not after a certain age, because
either you or Rich had an article up about women when they reach a certain point. So I think men and women equally, but women, like when they reach definitely like 50, but I think it was even younger than that. The guy, there's a better chance for the guy to get remarried than there is for the woman. She's going to pretty much be on her own from that point.
Right. And I think a lot of that has to do with beta men being very idealistic. Again, that proves the idealistic concept of love, but it also shows you the functional aspect of the sexual marketplace, which is, men are vetting really for youth and fertility. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking, because it's sexual access at that point. When a guy has, we've talked about how when women have that security aspect of hypergamy met, that they only really want to get with a guy who turns them on, a guy who can satisfy the alpha seed side of hypergamy. When men do that, men will naturally look for youth and fertility, but I've seen and this is something that maybe we need to discuss, because I'm not sure I'm certain about this, because a lot of guys will still, like, I've talked to guys who are 55 years old and they don't date lower than like 40 years old. And that's young for them. I mean, still, that's only like, it's almost 20 years, right? 15, 20 years younger than they are, still young. But they're not going for like 28-year-old girls. They're not going for even 35-year-old girls.
Common anymore? Is it, what are the who is it? John Stamos. He just got married again about a year ago. His wife's 30. Is she 32? So I think there's like 23 years difference between them. Of course, he's like Tom Cruise. He looks younger than he really is, and Rob Lowe too. Those guys are all pretty much the same age range. But the wife, it doesn't look that different, even though she's 32. She looks like a younger Melania Trump.
Yeah,
it looks there, but that's a pretty big gap. We had that story. What was it? Friday, about the professor from Princeton, 71, marrying or engaged to one of his students that just graduated as the valedictorian. To me, it was funny when I put that story out. The reaction from women in particular, that's creepy.
That's gross. That's good. But you know what? The girl it's not like he's like brainwashed this poor girl into, marrying her. She's making her own decision, particularly in this era, in this feminine, feminine dominant social era.
From Princeton,
valedictorian. Right? Yeah, so she can't be dumb. She was just some dumb bumpkin who's marrying this guy. It's just she wants to do. Her genuine. That's what's throwing these girls. Her genuine desire is for a guy who is 71 years old. Now, why do you think that is? Well, women will say, well, he's going to die in a couple years or in a couple decades. Whatever. And then she'll be entitled to all his money. And I said, well, a chick who's a valedictorian, does she need to do that? I don't know, but. What I think that people throw out the window here is what I call the contextual alpha. He's a contextual alpha. The reason why what that means is that in certain situations, men who wouldn't otherwise be considered alpha are considered alpha.
Because of who he is at that
because
school.
Of who he is and where he is. So it's domain dependency is what it is. But for instance, one of the reasons why women fall in love with their teachers, or male teachers, is because he is in a dominant position. He's the one who's driving the class. He's the one everybody's looking for. He's the one who is getting, and you think about it, he is constantly every day having his social proof, but his if he's a cute guy, it's like he might have like pre-selection going for him as well, but he certainly has every opportunity to confirm social proof that other people look up to him, that everybody in the class follows what this guy has to say. So he must know something, or he must, there's that dominance. He can be the dominant personality in that classroom for, 2 hours, every other day.
Right.
Well, I've used this as an example too, is I have to be careful of that in my line of work, because I have gotten into, I haven't gotten in trouble, but I know I could get into trouble because women are looking for direction. So when I go to like a commercial shoot and I'm the one that's saying, okay, we need to do this, or first of all, I'm selecting the women as it is to be in the shoot, but then I'm directing them. Women today are not used to being directed by men. In fact, they are actively told not to take direction from men and not to give authority to men. So when they are put into an environment or a condition where they have no other choice but to be subordinate to that man's direction, that puts him into then you're seeing a man who, at least perceptually, has some kind of dominance. He has some kind of competency, because that's why everybody's looking towards him. That's why he has social proof. Everybody's looking to him for answers. He's the one that is in control of this project, and he's the guy that we go up to and the guy we're supposed to respect, because he's the one that's in charge of this project. And if he's not, then nobody gets to do anything. So that could be a class, that could be, like I said, a commercial shoot. One reason why Goldman is so successful with photography game is because he assumes that directorship when he goes into this. Gets back to this guy's question about dominant. How do you be dominant? Get into a position where that woman has to be subordinate to you. So when a photographer, let's just say Goldman, who's using it to his advantage, gets into a situation where he has to say, okay, now put your head like this, or now look like this, or, draw me like your French girls, that kind of stuff. When he has to be the one that's directing them, that stimulates women's imagination. It stimulates pre-selection. It stimulates social proof. It is direction. Most women resist. Most women will, in their daily lives, they wake up and they go to sleep, they resist men's influence. They resist men. That's why I call it the resistance. They resist men's authority in all shapes and forms, except unless that guy has like such a dominant or such a provable, confirmable social dominance or pre-selection, or he's demonstrating higher value. And we'll move on to the super chats here in just a second, but like I just got into this kind of, I don't want to say a Twitter battle, but I made a Twitter thread, and one thing I noticed about like Jason Momoa, and I saw this other picture of like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, right? They were doing these hakas. You know what a haka is? No. Haka is that ceremonial dance. I don't know, it's called. So they're going, and they're
New Zealand, or
it's a Maori that's a Maori tradition amongst the male tribe members, is to get up and just sort of like psych yourself up and just, Elliot Hulse does this a lot with his own guys. And I used to think it was kind of like schmaltzy, but now I sort of realize the energy and the power behind that, because guys need that. They need that release. And that's why that's a thing for the Maori, or there's other tribal aspects. But when a guy like Jason Momoa, or a guy like The Rock, or somebody who women would look at and they go, yeah, I would do the dishes for him. Yeah, I would cook for him. Yeah, I would do his laundry. They look at that guy, and then suddenly they go from being this ardent feminist, or this, what have you done? Men are pigs, blah, blah, blah. And then they see Jason Momoa and his boys doing their haka, or they see, The Rock with his men, no women at all. It's only men. Right. When you see that, and it's led by a dominant alpha, women throw all that feminism crap out the window. That's when
I've seen soccer teams and rugby teams do that.
That's another one.
I've seen the
dance. It's called a haka. Yeah. I was thinking, man, it would be really cool to do a haka at the 21 convention. I think that would be really, really. I don't know enough about it. I couldn't possibly lead it because I don't know enough about it. But it would be really cool to do something like that. And now, of course, by the way, I'm going to be on with Elliot Hulse tomorrow morning. It's going to be 7 a.m. Pacific, so that's 10 a.m. Eastern. So watch his channel for that. I wanted to throw that out there because I love talking to Elliot.
Real quick before we get into these suggestions, one thing I want to hit on, we could probably do a program on this later. Talked about the parents. How her parents and family figure into the vetting. I've told you before, and I'm going to talk about this in the Patriarch. Guys worry about the dad. The dad's a pushover to me. I want to see mom. I want to find out what mom is, because mom is going to tell me what my life's going to be like 10, 15, 20 years from now. Generally, she's going to be a reflection. There's all sorts of things you can garnish from that family. Is there a dad there? If there is a dad there, what kind of a relationship is it? Is he beta? Is he alpha? Does she like him? Does she respect him, kind of stuff? Does she resent him? All of those things factor in. And with mom, if you're dealing with somebody, for example, exchanging some email with a listener who married a woman who had a child out of wedlock. She's the traditional single mom's definition, before we expand it. And he found out that her mom had a child out of wedlock. So what are the odds that his daughter is probably going to have a child out of wedlock?
Right. Yeah. Right. Runs in the family. Yeah. That's another thing is when you get past genuine desire, that's number one. When you get past trust, and I mean trust on her part. Does she trust you? Because she has to trust you to direct your lives together. And that's why I mean it's a life thing. It's something that you have to expect.
Even if she says she does, though, what do her actions say?
Yeah. The next thing, yeah, okay. The next thing I think that guys need to vet for is family. Yeah, because exactly what you're talking about here. And I think understanding who her dad is important. I don't want to blow that off. I do think that that's very important. I think that it's pretty easy to assess from a woman's personality. However, yeah, I think you're right as well. You need to find out what her mom's like. A lot of guys, the joke is, well, that's what she's going to look like when she hits 30, or she looks.
What is that house look like? Is mom a neat freak? Is mom a hoarder?
Right. Is mom and is, I think more importantly, is mom the most dominant personality in the household?
Yes.
Is mom the one that makes the rules? Because what we were saying before is when a woman sees a man as incompetent, she feels she has to step into that role. She has to be the one to provide the security for herself and for the family. And then that's when you get guys, you get husbands who fit into this role of being another child or being another dependent. And what did we say about that earlier? Women reserve their empathy for alphas. They don't give it willingly to a beta guy or an incompetent guy. So when women see that man as the dependent, which is what he ends up being, he's a dependent child, the daughter will pick up on that. I would say that it's almost better for a woman to have an absent father than to have a weak beta male father in the family. Agree. I think guys always say, well, women have daddy issues. I think that women have daddy issues, but they have worse daddy issues, not because the daddy was never there, but because the guy who was in the household was weak, was beta, was weak, was incompetent, and that sets the perception for women of what a man is like, or what men are like. And it could be also, you could also say, well, that's what she's looking for. She's not looking for that in a guy. She's looking for somebody who's going to dominate her. Well, she still has to come to that conclusion that she needs to find a guy who is dominant in competency and dominant in physicality and dominant in his work life and dominant in social situations. And being a dominant man is not just like, oh, I'm going to beat you up. It's not that. There's an understood respect. There's an understood dominance in lots of different ways.
I've grown up in homes where they've got a father who's either like an alcoholic or physically abusive or both. Mm-hmm. And here's the weird thing. That you would think that they would steer clear of that, go something opposite. They're actually drawn to people that have similar traits, which is like, it's almost a generational, boom, boom, boom.
And one other thing I wanted to talk about family, and when you're vetting for family, is I think there's a lot of women today, at least I don't know about outside Western societies, but I think that within Western societies, particularly women who have really dominant personalities, who don't trust you, who don't think that you're competent, who have a very low opinion of men, they also tend to be very tight-knit families, meaning that they don't want to move too far away from mom. Yeah. They want to, if they have to move away, they want to be right down the street. They want to have, or they want to be within, like, say, a half an hour's drive of mom, so that her family becomes the primary family. Right. And I think that that's something that guys don't really realize, because they want to go along to get along. They're just happy to have a woman who's into them. But if you see a woman who makes her family the priority, meaning like her mom and her dad come over for Christmas, or you're always going to Thanksgiving at their place, or there's no back and forth. There's not even,
or what they think about what you're doing. In other words, if decisions that the two of you are going to make become dependent on what her mother or father would think about that's a big red flag.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, what they would think about it. But I see guys, and I know people in my own, and well, my extended family, whose wives were simply just did not want to. It was never on the table. It was never an option for them to move anywhere other than like within a half an hour's drive of mom. Yeah. Because they had that was their source of, I mean, I won't say they're dependent upon mom, but that's they're making their family the focus. And I would also extend this to say that if a woman won't take your last name, she is not worth the ring. Do not put a ring on a woman's finger who will not take your last name, because that is an indication of a lack of trust and a lack of desire on her part. Any woman who wants to be married, who is that into, who's the hell yeah girl,
Right.
that's not even an issue. Taking your name is not even an issue, because she wants to be part of your tribe. She wants to have your name. She wants her children to have your name. And I wanted to add this too, is just, I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago, somebody sent me a story about, I can't remember the name of the chick, but the one who is marrying Ryan Gosling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying, and I don't know the girl. I'm sure somebody will come up with it in the chat here. But the woman, she's also famous as well. But she said something to the effect that she didn't want to have any kids until she met Ryan Gosling, and then she wanted to have Ryan Gosling's kids.
Yeah,
I don't want to have anybody else's kids, but I want to have his kids. I don't want to have kids, but I want to have his kids. That's what I'm talking about. That is genuine desire. That is, her last name will be Gosling, because she wants that. She wants to be in that tribe.
Eva Mendes.
Yeah, Eva Mendes. Thank you for that. And I would say, and people are going to say, oh, she's going to keep her name because she's famous, but that's the level of trust. That's the level of desire that I'm talking about. That when it comes to, hey, here's the ring. You're going to take, there's not even a discussion. There's not like, oh, I'm going to hyphenate my name, or, oh, I got to keep my name. It's just like, I got to go sign all these papers, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but I'm going to change my name.
Let's get to these
that's what it is.
Super chat questions.
Sure.
I'll let you rattle them off, or do you want me to read them at the top?
Yeah, let's just. I put them in the chat here.
I got to jump out. I'll be right back, though.
Okay, I'm gonna read a few of these here. Okay, the first one is from me, or not from me. That's from me. It says, can you vet a girl being with her for a couple of years as a beta? Quantum Conclave. Oh, that's not. I forgot who gave me that. But that was like a $5 super chat. Can you vet a girl? You can vet a girl anytime you want. Vetting a woman is something that you do. It's your choice. It's your decision. Most guys don't even want to give themselves permission to be in that position. They don't want to. Most guys defer to women, and they couldn't dream of having a list of priorities or having a list of deal breakers for marriage, because we've been taught that women are running the show. How dare you say that a single mom is not somebody you would want to marry? How dare you say that a woman who does X, Y, or Z is not a candidate for marriage? How dare you say those things? That's the attitude right now. Now what you're asking me here is after being beta for a couple of years. Well, that's something else that you need to address on your own. That's nothing to do with vetting. Can you turn that situation around? Yes, but it might behoove you to just simply start something new. Quantum Conclave. Thanks for that other $10 there, Red Man. I'm gonna take that one as well. So anyways, I answered number one. Here we go. Quantum Conclave gave us a $10. That's thank you very much. It says at 47 with less or with greater than 150,000, a six-pack, just unplugged, approximately 2015. How do I re-enter the dating scene? At 47 years old, I'm going to defer you to the what is it? My buddy Marco Russo. He would be a good one to talk about re-entering the dating scene. I'm also going to talk about this.
4 years.
Yeah. He would be a good guy. I'll put the description or put that link in the description. But Marco Russo, I did a podcast with him about 3 weeks ago, and he's got a great blog called Divorced After 50. And he's getting himself back into the dating scene. I think you should probably look up Marco Russo.
That was a great.
Was a pretty good. Yeah. In fact, you know what? Go look up that episode in my videos here. It's the Divorced After 51. Let's see. YOLO gave us 55 Scooby snacks from Norway. He says, hi, Rolo. Thanks for the great essays about women's attention and indignation. I wonder if it's any survival reason for why women need indignation, or why is there a survival reason for women needing indignation? If you don't know what he's talking about, I have a post called Indignation. And in that, I argue that women have an innate need for for the way that indignation makes them feel. And in the absence of indignation, women will manufacture it for themselves, which is why you see like the Tyra Banks show or the Sally Jesse, the daytime talk shows, those kinds of things.
People are like making up stuff to be upset about.
Oh yeah, because that there's something about that chemical reaction, about the dopamine hit or whatever it is, that like men and women get off on different things that are part of their gender makeup or their innate makeup. And I think one of the things that women like to think that they've been cheated on, or they like to live vicariously through women who have been cheated on. Now I've said this in the past. I said that because there's that dopamine hit, that there's that, oh my gosh, this guy is is betraying my trust or whatever. Because there's that need, there's the feeling, that adrenaline kick or that chemical cocktail that goes along with that. And I think a lot of that has to do with I think it's breeding imperatives mostly. It's like they want to feel that, and if they're not getting that from real life, they go and they seek it out on their own. Is there a survival reason for that? I think it's just the way that women are made, that they want to feel alive. That's how they feel alive, is to be to feel indignant about things, or to feel I don't say offense so much, but just indignance is the best. I would just say go ahead and read my, I know you probably already have, but if anybody's familiar with my essays on indignation, so
the next one's from Army Parrot. Can you explain engaging her hindbrain? That, to me, when you say that, that's more, it's automatic. It's not something, or is he asking us, how do we engage that?
How do we, I'm gonna read that as, how do we do that? That is you making an emotional hit. That's you be indignant, right? You can trigger that indignation. Old school pickup artists will tell you that the most important thing that you need to do when it comes to approaching and dating and successfully seducing women is to leave that woman with an emotional impact. And that emotional impact doesn't have to be positive. It can be negative as well. And most women who fall in love with guys like, oh, I hate him, but I want him, that kind of feeling. There has to be some kind of emotional connection that she associates with you. So one of the early pickup artist techniques was to, first of all, get her talking. There's a whole, I was going to say, there's a whole series of steps when it comes to seduction, if you're following Mystery Method or something like that, but all of them are designed to trigger that emotive response, or that hindbrain response, of that association of you with certain aspects. Like, are you the guy who has reproductive value? Are you the guy who has survival value? One reason why guys said, take your girl, if you're going on a first date, take her rock climbing. Right? Or take her on some sort of, take her jet skiing, or take her someplace that's exciting, that's going to raise her emotional level so that she associates that feeling with you. So when she thinks about you, she thinks about jet skiing. When she thinks about you, she thinks about laughing. When she thinks about you, she thinks about your six pack or whatever. When she thinks about you, what is the emotional connection that she's making? What does she think about on a root level? And that's when it is, how do you engage that? Well, I think it depends on the chick. First of all, is like, what do you think is going to, where is she on her sexual market value scale for first thing? But just understanding what it is about her that will trigger that. Like there's a thing in the pickup artist community called chick crack, and chick crack is appealing to sort of the supernatural, how it presumes that women are more attuned to the supernatural and metaphysical than men are. They're religious without, they're spiritual but not religious. Spiritual but not religious. And yet they've got tarot cards, and they've got, they believe in UFOs, whatever. I don't know. That was one way that guys would like appeal to that in some way, like as part of their game, and that would make that emotional connection, because there's that surrealness to it, or there's that like mysticalness to that. Oh, this guy's a mystery. I got to figure him out. There
was a guy telling me about something, in Oklahoma, Trail of Tears, that kind of stuff. But he had the wind catcher. You know what a wind catcher is, right? He had that on his profile, and he says he got more inquiries about that, because it's exactly like you're saying. It's that oh, you're into that, you know.
Yeah. Oh, you're a shaman. Yeah. Yeah. Or you're you're a shaman. You're into shamanistic medicine, and you're also a massage therapist. You know, so that kind of stuff. But what I'm using that as an example because there are certain parts of a woman's nature that are more vulnerable to different ways of seducing it. But in every one of those techniques, they are meant to trigger an emotional response. So even like the infamous neg hit, right? Which is really just a backhanded compliment. What that engages, it engages her imagination. Well, does this guy really think that, or does he not think that, or so she's got to figure you out. What you're doing is you're making that emotional connection, but you're also sort of leaving what I call breadcrumbs. She wants to pick up the breadcrumbs to follow you where you're going. And she could, because she's intrigued. She wants to figure what you're about. That's why guys always say, well, you know, I've been living with her for 3 months and the mystery's gone and she knows everything about me. Yeah, because familiarity, rapport, comfort are anti-seductive. That's why. And so you need to lead her along. It's a breadcrumb theory. I have a post called Breadcrumbs.
Comfort is boring. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Who is this? Army Parrot, I think is the dude. I am
Pine Brain. We already did that one. We're on to I'm
no, it's you're looking at them differently here. This is I'm 44 years old. That kind of desire impossible with I'm 44 years old. That kind of desire impossible with a 30-year-old woman. They want an LTR, security kids, not sex, soulmate. They loved man. Gosh,
many men.
Yeah, manly men. Do you have advice on how to find this desire when 40 plus?
Let me jump on that real quick.
Sure.
One of the things she said, many men, you don't want that because there's studies out there that show that they have a greater problem staying attached to guys. There's a greater likelihood of divorce right from the get-go. The more sexual partners a female has had, the less likely she is to stay with you in a long-term relationship.
I'm gonna write this one down and see if we can throw this one out there for Redline, assuming we do it. I hope we can do it this Friday because we'll all be in Orlando at that time. But that's our call-in show. What I will address this really quick because I talk to guys who are 55, 40, 50, 55-year-old guys who their number one concern is that all the women that they're meeting already have baggage. They already have kids. They were divorced. They don't want to have sex. They just want to settle down with the next guy. They're hoping against hope that they'll find a guy who is above them in sexual market value, who finds them somehow irresistibly, desirable, which is, a pipe dream to begin with. But these guys say that that's all they're meeting. They're only meeting the women their age, or even just like younger, like Marco is 55. He's dating chicks in their 40s, and all of them are the same. They all have baggage. They all have they're all divorcees. They're all single. Well, they're all mothers. Maybe they're empty nester mothers, but they're all mothers. And so how do you find this? I think for guys who are 55 years old, the unicorn ends up being like the 44-year-old woman who's never been married, no kids, and wants to have marathon sex with them all the time.
Yeah, if you find that, there's a reason she hasn't been married.
Yeah. That is one of the unique challenges of being an older guy, reinserting yourself back into the sexual marketplace.
I know a doctor in our area. He's about 57, maybe 58. He's divorced. Guy's worth a ton of money. He found a 47-year-old chick that's just smoking hot. Okay. She'd been married and divorced. She'd been with the guy, I don't know, 10, 15 years. They didn't have any kids. So she looked like she was 35. That lasted maybe about 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's over. I don't know why they split, but there's a reason, if it looks too good to be true, a lot of times. Right?
Well, yeah, also understand that when you get to be 44 years old, and this guy's talking about a 30-year-old woman, really what he's asking me is like permission to date this girl. And I'm not going to give you permission to date someone like this, but he's probably saying is it possible to get to that kind of desire, to get to a natural desire? If you're already in it, if you're already in some way in a committed exclusive relationship with this woman, and you're coming on my show and you're saying, I know that I'm beta. How do I get out? Trust me, she already sees you that way. She already sees you as somebody who is not her primary. You're a necessity to her. You're not a desire for her. She is, you play a role in her theater. That's why we always talk about women being solipsistic. You are an accessory. You are something that she likes to have around, and maybe she even needs you around, but she doesn't have this overwhelming enthusiastic desire to have you in her life. And if you were to leave, it might not be such a bad thing. So how do you change that around? Well, I think that if you're in that situation already, why would you want to? Why even bother? It would serve you better to go get out of that relationship and get into a new relationship with a woman who already sees you as predominantly more alpha, who actually has genuine desire for you. How do you do that at your age? Well, those challenges are unique to yourself.
I put a message up there in our chat for you. I gotta.
Okay. Let's just do one more. If you have to bail, I'll wrap up here the rest of these because I kind of want to get to these. What do you suggest for a girl tries to treat you like a beta, Rolo? What do you mean by dominate? Okay. I think I already kind of answered that a little bit as far as the domination, being a dominant male. It's like domination. Oh, you got to get her and just hold her down and put your knee on her neck. That's not what it is. It's being a dominant personality. There's social dominance, there's competence, there's all kinds of ways to be a dominant guy, be a guy who's going to go out there and get things done, who's going to, think of himself first.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we already kind of touched on that. Let's go to the next.
Towards the bottom, dilemma about vetting. If a girl wants to poon on the first or second date, I'm glad because she sees me as an alpha, but I see her as a slut. So this guy's got an internal conflict. She waits. I know she sees me as a beta, but for some reason, I see her as quality. I would almost guarantee the guy's got some religious, concerns.
I would say that there's definitely a religious concern there. This is what I get from most of these guys. And I'm not saying that, like people always say that when I talk about was iron rule number 3, any time a woman makes you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. Remember, that's about desire. That's not about, like, I'm not telling guys go out and have as much sex as you possibly can. It's got to be on the first date. Otherwise it's not real. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's kind of a litmus test for genuine desire. Can she not keep her hands off of you? Maybe you haven't even had sex at all. Can she not keep her hands off of you? Can she resist touching you? Can she resist? What do you know it when you see it, right? When you make that connection with a woman and the woman's eyes dilate and she's like, wow, I really want to get. She's the hell yeah girl. She's giving off behavioral cues that your instincts understand that this chick is into me. Pickup artists call this IOIs. It's indicators of interest, right? But it's a whole lot more than that, because it's not just you saying, okay, I see the eyes and I see this and I see this, and all of these things are aligning up. I guess she's interested in me. You're not thinking that. You're feeling that, because we've evolved to pick up on those cues as it is. We're subliminally and subconsciously picking up on the behaviors that woman is displaying for us to begin with, that we associate with. But then we're also subject to, like, our own bodies being flushed with endorphins, and our own bodies thinking, all right, this is going to be, well, I think we're going to get there with this one, right?
Well, you know it too once you have sex, because and this is on more than one occasion, but if you have what you call the validational as opposed to the transactional, you'll know it. You've got it. If you've got the validational, you'll never want anything else.
Every man wants a slut, but he wants that woman to be his slut. Okay. Every man wants that woman to be a porn star in bed, but then be mom and making him waffles in the morning after they're done. Okay. That's the Madonna whore thing that we were talking about before. And it goes back to, alpha seed, beta need. And I'm saying that nice because I want to stay monetized here. There's an instinct in guys or I should say, women are the ones that slut shame other women the most. And the reason they do that is because they want to disqualify a superior competitor. Right. So if they see a woman who is hotter than them, wearing the red dress, and is obviously giving off cues about her state of ovulation, when she walks into the club, the first thing women are going to do is go, oh, girl's a slut. I can't believe her, and they're gonna start talking bad about her. It's like this natural impulse. You want to talk about indignation? There's this natural impulse that that prompts women to gossip, that prompts women to talk, and what they're doing is they're disqualifying. It's intrasexual combat. And so men do that too. Men do that amongst themselves, but we also, like, guys will say, well, I see her as a slut if she's easy. Right. And then of course women pick up on that and they go, oh, good. I'll just hold out on this guy. And by doing so, I'll give him the impression that I'm actually a quality woman that he needs to jump through the hoops. Well, what happens is when women do that, when women make you wait for sex, she is making more rules for the beta. And for alphas, she will break the rules. Is she breaking rules for you, or is she making rules for you? And that's really the bottom line in this whole thing right here. Is in this question is, she sees me as a beta if I'm waiting. Yeah, she does. Or she will put you on the wait list because she doesn't see you as the hot damn, I got to do them now, because if I don't, I'm going to lose this guy. I'm going to lose out on a golden opportunity. She doesn't see you as the golden opportunity.
I got to bail on this. I'll let you wrap up.
I will wrap up on my own here. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to read the rest of these. Yes. And I will be with you on Friday at 9:05 Eastern on your program. And then we will be together doing a talk at the Patriarchs Convention on Saturday, which
we made you Red Pill 101 from Orlando as well.
Yes. And we'll be doing Red Man Group live. We'll be doing a lot of stuff live. So this week is the all live version of the Red Man Group, and the all live version of this show, and the all live version of everything. So stay tuned, and Pat will be on with me as well. So I'm going to finish up here. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to finish up here. I've got a couple more super chats. I like to get to these because I know you guys want a chance to get some questions answered. So let's just run through those, and then I got to do a little bit of housekeeping here. So what else do I got? I got Stoic Red here saying, I think many men confuse a woman's weakness with submission. To what degree would you say that submission is a deliberate choice on her part and might be a good point in vetting her? Oh, that's a really good one. Thank you for that one. Let's see about submission. I think that the word submission is sort of a holdover from the Bible, because that's what we expect, wifely submission to the husband. And this is a really hard point of contention, I think, for most modern pastors, because they have to appeal to their female audience, or the primary consumer in the United States is women. Let's just be honest. And so who is paying the bills in the church? It's women. So they have to appeal to that in some way. So they have to lessen that impact. They have to, in some way, tell women what they want to hear. Otherwise, the tithe checks don't come in, and the lights don't stay on. So, but that, I think the word submission, it serves, but I think that what you're talking about here is a natural, organic submission, as opposed to, well, I read it in the Bible, so it says I have to submit to you, so here I am, I'm submitting to you. That kind of thing. That's not genuine. That is, first of all, it's overt, but it's also not organic. It is an obligation rather than a natural want or desire to. When women subordinate themselves to men, when women submit, I guess, is the best thing I can think of. If I could think of a better word, I would use it, definitely. But when a woman sees you as the primary force in her life, the primary decision maker in her life, the one who she wants to be with, the one who answers the question, is he the best that I can do? And the answer is yes. There is an organic side of a woman who submits naturally, she wouldn't even call it submission. She would just say, yeah, I'm just his wife. I want to be in his family. I want to have his babies. It's like the Ryan Gosling and the Eva Mendes thing. It's like she wants to have your kids. I think there are a lot of women who are married to beta men who have had their kids but didn't want to have their kids. But they have them, and they love them. And don't dislike them, but they would have much rather had Jason Momoa's kids, and they would have naturally submitted to a guy like that, who has that natural, identifiable alpha dominant character. And that wouldn't even be like if anybody's been following my Twitter feed, I had this thing about Jason Momoa's hakas and stuff like that, and just how women throw away all of this pretense, all of this feminist pretense about what men ought to be for her, and how men must serve women. but yet women will throw that all away to a guy who is visibly, identifiably dominant, or who would be the ideal for her. So anyways, long story short is that submission comes as a natural. It just clicks, right? It's just when a woman's hindbrain sees a guy who is an apex alpha guy, she turns into housewife. She turns into, oh yes, she's never cooked in her life. I'm going to be a cook for this guy, and I'm going to go on YouTube and learn how to cook. She's going to try. She's going to want to find ways to please a guy like that, because usually we're talking about a guy who is probably like anywhere between 2 to 3 steps above her in sexual market value. So you got a woman who's kind of like this fat, frumpy little girl, and she meets a guy who looks like The Rock. Yeah, of course she's going to make those decisions. Of course she's going to even the most ardent, independent careerist woman is going to back up off of that and want to please that guy no matter what feminism has told her. And that's what happens is feminism teaches women never to do anything for the express pleasure of a man. And then women have to learn that. They have to internalize that idea. I'm never going to do anything for a man because I can't trust them. They're incompetent. They're Homer Simpsons. They're idiots. They're ridiculous. I'm never going to do anything for them. It's their purpose to do something for me. That's the entitlement thing. You know, women talk about men's privilege. I talk about women's entitlement. And so when a woman meets a guy who triggers all those natural alpha, hits all the lights, all of that stuff, all of that learning that she had to learn to never please a guy, all of that goes. She doesn't care what her feminist friends think. And you know what? Her feminist friends wouldn't even blame her for wanting to please a guy that looks like The Rock or Jason Momoa or whatever. So that's how do you get to that? Well, you've got to be visibly dominant. You have to be visibly more alpha. You have to know that you're answering the hypergamous doubt question, but also that you are at least 1 and possibly 2 steps above her in sexual market value. And then watch how that is. I have guys that will tell me that they dated a feminist, but that feminist threw all that pretense out the window for him because he was dominant enough, he was alpha enough, and he was confident enough to stick to his guns and to be who he was as a positive, confident, dominant, conventionally masculine guy. Women will throw that out the window for the guy who is, who's worth throwing it out the window, the guy who's worth pleasing. And I think that today, women's entitlement and their overblown sense of ego, thanks to social media, has made the benchmark for that guy that much higher. So getting to that organic submission, the other thing is guys don't know what to do with it when they get it. They feel bad about it. They feel bad that, oh, she's submitting to me. Oh my gosh, we don't have the egalitarian relationship everybody told me was supposed to be perfect. You need to give yourself permission to be dominant. All right. Let's see. I got one more here. So this is Jihad Powell. $5 super chat. Thank you. Does being a single dad having your child full-time give off the beta provider perception in dating? I think it just depends on how you do it. I don't want to say one way or the other. I think that if you are predominantly alpha, if you are a guy who takes being a single male parent very seriously, I don't know if maybe you're widowed. You can. I hate to say it, I'm from a pragmatic perspective, from a game perspective. If you're widowed, you're actually probably in a better position. But let's just say, for sake of argument, you're divorced. Is that a disadvantage? Let's just say it is not as big a disadvantage as if you are a single mother with a child. I think because women are looking for men who are good bets, hypergamously, that they are good bets. So the guy who already has a kid, and maybe it's a daughter, or maybe it's a son, who knows, that guy is in some way, if he's a respectable father or whatever, if he's an alpha father, if that guy is respectable enough, I think that that's an advantage to him, because women are looking, remember, men and women are looking for different things. We're different people. We have different sexual strategies. Women are looking for a guy who's a good bet. And if she sees that the guy already has a kid and she desires him and she wants to be part of his tribe, but she wants to take his last name, that I think that maybe that's an advantage to you, really. Certainly more, well, it's way more than if it's a woman with a kid. But and women will watch this and go, that's so unfair. Yeah, you're right, it is, because men and women are different. That's part of the game. I'm sorry to say. I would say I don't think it's necessarily beta. I remember what people always ask me this shit. They always say like, oh, well, is this beta? Is this alpha? Like I know, like I know the context or any of the stuff that go along with it. And I think that guys kind of overemphasize whatever a particular behavior is alpha or beta. I think that stuff that you would think of as beta, and if it's done by The Rock, like what's beta? Like when a guy like The Rock puts on a little pink tutu and pretends he's the tooth fairy for his little daughter, is that beta? You can say, well, if it's like or okay, so you got another guy who recently we saw this video of this guy. I think he was in he was in Holland, and he was dancing to the Frozen theme with his little boy, who wanted to dress up as like one of those little Elsa or whatever it is, an ice queen or whatever. And dancing around. Oh, it's so great. Yeah, it's all so awesome. These breaking gender rules. This is what a real dad does. No, it's not. It's very beta. And it's a little effeminate, to be honest with you. But would it be different if the guy was a bodybuilder and he was doing it with his daughter? I would say yes. It just depends on the context. So like when people ask me like, I did this, is that beta or alpha? I don't know. How did you do it? What's the predominant, perception of you? What is that? So, okay, I got through all of these. I've got two more. Thank you very much. I am going to back scroll a little bit here, and then I'm going to take care of some business. You guys keep throwing these things at me. Okay. Poppy Yankee. Does that mean you're like Puerto Rican from New York? Living with a girlfriend over 2 years, 4 years dating today. I found her on a dating app saying, message me on Snapchat or Instagram. Dump her or discuss it. Dump her. She's advertising. Like guys, women will see that and they'll go, oh, no, they should talk it out, man. Open communication solves everything. No. Here it is. The medium is the message. And the message is that she is looking for something outside of the relationship, and her desire for you is compromised, to say the least, if she has anything at all. So if a woman does something that is, that demonstrates that her desire is not for you, such as cheating on you, such as, gosh, you've been with her you've been living with her for 2 years, which is a big mistake, which is probably why she's looking for something outside the relationship. She's probably looking for a change. She's probably looking for a guy who isn't you. You brought it on yourself. So what are you going to learn from that situation? You've been dating her for 4 years. You've been living with her for half that time. And she's on a dating app and trying to get after it with somebody else. Well, look at what happened. You broke iron rule number 4, which is don't shack up with a woman. Don't never put no signature on the rental agreement. Don't never do that. Because you lose, or first of all, you get into that familiarity, you get into that comfort zone. I would say that well, of course the sex declines rapidly after that. My rule is never get into, or never live with a woman that you're not going to marry within 6 months. And you've already had that discussion and you're already decided that you're going to marry her. And that's not a moralistic thing. That's a pragmatism right there. And the reason why you don't do that is exactly the reason that you're in the position that you're in right now. So learn that well. But guys or women will say, oh, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Now, if you take this chick back, you have a scarcity mentality and you have something that is even deeper seated that you need to deal with. So no, you don't take her back. And in fact, we were just talking about this on the Redline show. If a woman decides she wants to go on girls' night out, that is the medium is the message. She has decided that her girlfriends and having a good time in Vegas or whatever it is that she's going to do is more important than you, or her desire to do that is above you in that priority level. So what are you going to do about it? That's really what all advice, all red pill advice comes down to this. What are you going to do about it? Let's see. Free will speech. Why would my ex come and this is a £4.99 why would my ex come and see me after 2 years, get in bed, but won't have sex? She has done it before as well, leaving me confused. Those are the mixed messages again, man, right? That's the medium is the message. There's no such thing as mixed messages, by the way. Women will tell you or will show you exactly what they mean, exactly where they're at. If their words don't coincide with it, just watch what they do. Always believe what she's doing. Always believe behavior. That's why I'm a behaviorist. The only confirmable, verifiable way to determine motive, to determine why somebody does something or whatever the incentive was, is behavior. Is to see when you say everybody talks a good game, and of course we say this with everybody, just watch what they do, don't believe what they say. It's more than that, especially when it comes to women, because guys want to believe. We want to believe what a woman tells us. We really do, because it's satisfying us, maybe ego wise, but most guys are necessitous. And necessitous men are never free. Most men are necessitous, and necessitous men are never free, because they need that. They need to know that they've got a chick. They need to know that they've got something going for themselves, because most men are optionless, and so they tend to hold on tight. That's why you get serial monogamists a lot today. The men that actually are having sex today tend to be serial monogamists, because either they don't give themselves permission to be non-exclusive, or they just simply can't fathom it. It's just an alien thought for them to be that way. So let's answer your question. Why would my ex come to see me after 2 years and then get in bed, and then what? Did you guys spoon together? Is that how it was? Oh yeah. So she's like, you're her sure thing. That's why. So her ex, why are you doing this? I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. But after 2 years, she gets in bed, but won't have sex with you. Yeah, because she sees you as a comfort. She sees you as her beta stuffed animal. She doesn't want when women have beta orbiters, or when they have guys that they know are comfortable and that they want to go to for consolation or compassion or sympathy or anything like that. If a woman keeps coming back to you to do that, you need to examine what it is about yourself that makes women do that. Because when that's a constant thing that is going for you, it means that women are seeing you more as like the beta provider, or the beta comfort provider, or the resource provider, or what we call the emotional tampon, right? You're the phone friend. You're the one she calls, and this is interesting, because you're saying that after 2 years, and she still sees you this way. I would presume you were having sex with her before, but most women, when they have beta orbiters, or they have a nice comfort guy, or the sure thing guy, that guy tends to be comparable to a stuffed animal. He's the stuffed animal that's on the end of the bed, and you want to hug the animal, and whenever she's crying, or she's done with girls' night out, and she went to the bachelorette party and she had such a great time, and now she comes home and she's half drunk, and she's just like, oh, where's my life going? She goes and she reaches for the stuffed animal, and she hugs the stuffed animal, and you are the stuffed animal. You are the beta comfort provider for her. And then you wonder why she won't have sex with you. So when the stuffed animal gets a hard on, she's just like, this thing has a hard on with this. My nice teddy bear has a dick. What am I going to do about it? When she has that, she throws it away and she doesn't want to have anything. And then that's creepy, right? So, you need to. What are you going to do about it? Is the question. She sees you as the sure thing. She sees you as the comfort provider. So what are you going to do about it? You're leaving me confused. Confused about what? Are you going to get back with her? You're not going to get back with her. She's been your ex for 2 years. Why has she been your ex? You're not going to. Iron Rule Tomasi number 7: never go back. Never root through garbage once you've taken the garbage to the corner. So think about what you're doing here. First of all, why is she seeing you that way? Maybe that's something that you need to address. Maybe that's another thing you need to ask. And then what are you going to do about it? And are you going to take her back? Are you going to try to have sex with her after all that? No. It's always time better spent developing new prospects than to do that. So let me run through the last bit here. Okay, good. Okay, we're done. Thank you. Of course, now I said this, everybody's going to go, wait, super chat. Anyways, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Housekeeping is this: 21 convention Patriarchs edition is going to be this weekend, this coming weekend. It will be May 4th through the 6th. Yes, 4th through the 6th. Oh no, excuse me, 3rd through the 5th. 3rd through the 5th. Cinco de Mayo. That's right. We're gonna have a Cinco de Mayo. We're gonna have Taco Sunday, right? So Taco Sundays. Meet me for Taco Sundays in Orlando at the 21 convention. This is the Patriarchs edition of the 21 convention. It is intended primarily for, by the way, there's still registration left. You can still go if you want to. And I don't know about the hotel rooms, but you can certainly still register for it if you're on the fence and you want to go. If you really want to go to this one, I think Anthony would probably be open to having you be a volunteer of some sorts at this, if you want to do it that way in case you live in Orlando or you live someplace in Florida and you really got to go. So that's coming up. That is the Patriarchs edition. So what that means is this is for fathers. It's for red pill fathers. It's for husbands. It's for guys who are wanting to be fathers. It's for guys who are divorced, who want to sort of figure things out and how to live a better red pill life. I am going to be doing a workshop there. It's going to be with Elliot Hulse. That's the other announcement I should add on there. Elliot Hulse and I are going to be talking about the red pill and religion. If you know anything about Elliot, then you probably know why I'm going to be doing that. I am sort of, I kind of see Elliot as the yin to my yang when it comes to metaphysical stuff, or when it comes to religion or philosophy and the red pill. I'm more down to earth. I'm the Aristotle and he's the Plato, right? I'm the one who keep it down here and he's the one that goes like this. So we're going to be talking about that. That's going to be a workshop that I'm going to do, and I think that is going to. I think that's really going to be a highlight of this one. And not to just gloss myself, I've been wanting to do something like this with Elliot for quite some time. And if you would like more information about that, we are probably going to get into that topic at some point tomorrow morning on Elliot's channel, on his YouTube channel, and I will be on at 7 a.m. Pacific. So it'll be 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning with Elliot Hulse, myself, and him. That's always, I love talking to Elliot because he's one of the few guys I think that I can still have a decent conversation about when it comes to philosophy and religion and that kind of stuff. And he still recognizes that I'm a nuts and bolts guy and that I will tell you why you believe is practical or impractical. So that's going to be a really good one. So please come to that convention or watch that tomorrow. There's a lot more going on at these conventions than meets the eye. So there's so much. We have workshops that are going on the side for this one. I'm going to be giving my speech, it's not really a speech. I'm going to be giving a talk, and I'm going to kind of do it just like a sit down talk with Pat. So Pat Campbell and I are going to be giving a talk, and we're going to be talking about, and my topic is going to be multi-generational mentorship. And as you know, I've written, my third book is Positive Masculinity, and the first about third of that book is dedicated to red pill parenting. And really that's what kind of like prompted me to write that book in the first place. So that's what I'm going to get into in my topic. So if anybody wants to know, that's what I'm going to be doing. I think a lot of these are going to be simulcasted live. So you can, if you can't be there, you can certainly get the video. We're also going to be doing the Red Man group on, I think we're going to do it on Sunday. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Sunday. So it might not be one on Saturday, but there will definitely be one on Sunday. We're going to be recording, I think, 3 of these, and we will have a different panel in each one. It's kind of similar to what we did back in October. So if that's what you're curious about, we'll be doing that. Also, if you have questions that you want to ask, whether they're about the convention or they are just really anything in general that you want us to discuss at those panels, either hit me up on Twitter or give me an email and let me know what you would like to discuss. I'm all about the service here, particularly when it comes to these conventions. I know people spend a lot of money. I know people only have so many vacations in their year, and so I know everybody else does this, but I try to make it worth your while. So you have access to me. You have access to guys like Elliot, Pat, Jack Murphy, Hunter Drew, all these guys. You have access to these guys. I was joking around with Anthony just yesterday, and we were talking about workshops. And I said, really, my workshop starts the moment I enter the lobby, because generally I can't walk from one end of the hotel back to my room without having 3 or 4 different conversations, because I have people coming and hitting me up, well, pretty much everywhere I go, and I'm happy to do it. I it's not trying to gloss myself or anything, but like, I'm happy to do that kind of stuff because I know that's what you're there for. So anyway, so we've got that. The other big announcements is the 21 Convention Poland tickets registrations have gone on sale. They are now on sale. Please use my affiliate link. By the time you see this video, my blog post will be up on the Rational Mail, so you can get the affiliate links. If you really got to run and do it right now, you can go look at my Twitter feed, and I've been putting up links to my affiliate, so you can buy a ticket or buy registration through Rollo Tomasi. So please do that if that's where you want to go. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Poland, I've never been to Poland. I've been to Europe probably 6 or 7 times, but I've been in Germany. I have been in Holland more times than I care to remember, and I have been in Belgium and France as well. That's the limit of my European touring, but I've never been to Poland, and this is going to be a new experience for me. I'm really looking forward to doing this. Because I have a Polish translation of the Rational Mail, and the other 2 books are being translated right now. And I work with some really, really great guys in Poland for that. And if anybody has not seen the layout and the book design for that, that is one of the things that I am most proud of, having done all of this good stuff with Rational Mail. So if you are in Europe, if you are wanting to meet up and be a part of the 21 Convention, this is your chance. This is going to be the European extension of the 21 Convention. I will be there. I know Jack Donovan will be there. I'm pretty sure Elliot Hulse will be there. I'm not really sure. I don't want to say one way or the other. If you want the speakers list, just go to the 21 website or 21 Convention website, and you'll see the full speaker list for all that. And then of course we're always adding people, and so it changes. And then finally, the tickets, or the registration, I should say, for the main event, which is the big US event, which is in Orlando, and it will be October 24th through the 27th. And those registration tickets are now on sale as well. And we have and I know for sure Elliot will be at that one, and I know for sure I will be at that one, and I know Jack Murphy and Jack Donovan and all. I think, and I probably should announce this, but who's going to watch this all the way? Okay. I think we have confirmed Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus is going to be, Brian Sharp is going to be speaking for us at the main event, which will be in October. I'm real excited about that too, because I really like that guy. The one thing that's great about the 21 Convention is I actually get to meet all these guys in person, like all the personalities that I follow, or all the people that that I think are significant in the Manosphere. It's great to be able to just go and like sort of pick these guys' brains, once or twice a year. So all of that is going on. I will be doing a workshop at that one as well. That's going to be the 24th through the 27th. So you're looking at a 4-day event. That's going to be longer than anything we've ever done. That one will definitely sell out. So again, go through my affiliate link if you want to credit me on that. Let's see what else. I will be, excuse me, I will also be on Pat's show on Friday morning. That will be 9:05 Eastern. Just check my Twitter feed for the link to that. It's at AM 1170 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you don't know that already. And let's see, I think that's all I'm doing right now. I will be doing Religion in the Red Pill. I will be talking to a Muslim guy. And in the next one, we'll be discussing Islam. I will probably be doing that after this. You're probably a week out from that, because I've got so much to do. I will be in Florida on Tuesday, on the 30th. So if I'm going to be there on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday is when the show starts. So we'll be doing that. That's it. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for following this all the way to the end. I got one more real quick. Says Rollo, could you answer my question about the last name? Hit me up on Twitter, Red Melanon. I'll answer that later. I'm not really sure what you meant by last name. Surnames are something I already talked about. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. I do this every Sunday at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. So if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't liked this, please do so. And I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.